Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. A warm welcome on this supremely chilly Arizona morning. My name is Riley McIsaac, and I serve as the Associate Director for HSI Grants Development at the Office of Hispanic Serving Institution Initiatives here at the University of Arizona. Our office is so pleased to partner with our colleagues at the USDA to offer this informational webinar to you all. The Kika de la Garza Fellowship Program is an excellent professional development opportunity for faculty and staff at HSIs who are interested in learning more about the USDA and its various funding opportunities. There are programs like these are excellent capacity builders for HSIs, and we're very grateful to have this program open to us. So at this time, I would like to turn things over to my colleague, Roberto Gonzalez. He is our regional liaison to all things USDA from the Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement. Roberto?
Thank you, Riley. My name is Roberto Gonzalez Jr. I am the USDA liaison for the southernmost part of California and Arizona with the Hispanic Serving Institutions National Program within USDA's Office of Partnership and Public Engagement. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize and kindly thank the University of Arizona for hosting this informational webinar with Arizona HSIs. It is truly appreciated, like always, for being our partner. In particular, a very special thank you for this collaborative partnership, among others, from the HSI initiatives at the University of Arizona and its HSI team, for being a premier partner and regional collaborator with exemplary leadership center on servingness for community engagement with K-12, 2-year and 4-year partners and collaborators throughout Arizona with faculty, staff, and administrators at Arizona HSIs, and its connections with the community that it serves as a whole, and everything in between, such as the Arizona HSI Consortium. I would also like to say thank you to Dr. Marla Franco, who is not here with us today, but would not be happening without her. Of course, Riley McIsaac, Dr. Carla Cruz Silva, and Monique Bertran from the HSI team, once again from the University of Arizona, for their continued support and collaborative partnership in hosting such as this information webinar, among others, when engaging Arizona HSI. I'm just very grateful to have you as our host, along with the Arizona HSI Consortium. So now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, or actually leader, Julio C. Puentes, who serves as the new program lead for the Hispanic Serving Institutions National Program within USDA's Office of Partnership and Public Engagement. Julio Puentes has been part of USDA for more than 13 years, and he's now managing the Hispanic Serving Institutions USDA Kika de la Garza Fellowship Program, which is geared towards faculty, staff, and administrators from HSIs. With that in mind, I would like to say thank you to Julio as well for joining us today. And, also I'd like to thank all of our stakeholders that are participating in today's meeting. And also this will be shared via recording to all the registrants as well for your interest in the fellowship program. Thank you. Once again, I'll give it to you, Julio.
Well, good morning, or in my time zone, Gus, good afternoon. Roberto, thank you for the introduction, and also thank you to the team at the HSI team at the University of Arizona for having me here today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. As Roberto mentioned, my name is Julio Puentes, and I serve as the program lead for the HSI National Program at USDA's Partnerships and Public Engagement. First of all, I'll start off with a quick apology for the date that I have on my slide. We did not go back in time. If you're checking your calendar, today is February 16th. I just fortunately didn't have a chance to update my presentation, but thank you all for being here. The USDA Kika de la Garza Fellowship Program, named in honor of the late U.S. Congressman from Texas and chair of the House Agricultural Committee, Eligio Kika de la Garza, is a pillar and vital program for USDA to expand and maintain our partnerships and outreach efforts with Hispanic serving institutions. The program is a unique opportunity that we have available because it exclusively targets faculty and staff from Hispanic serving institutions and teachers and educators from Hispanic serving school districts. The program allows USDA to connect with those who directly serve students at their institutions and communities to ensure that you are informed about the various programs, opportunities, and resources at USDA. First, I'd like to go over the available fellowship tracks, as it would be helpful to know what tracks are available and interest to you. We have three main fellowship tracks within the program. The first is our Education Fellowship. The Education Fellowship is the primary catch-all for all Hispanic Service Institution employees. If you work at an HSI, you are eligible to participate in this program as part of the Education Fellowship track. The second is the Science Fellowship. The Science Fellowship track is a bit more tailored, and it really targets science faculty and researchers typically conducting agriculture-related research at their respective institution, who would like an opportunity to partner with USDA scientists as part of this program to expand on and continue their work. Science Fellows applicants can apply for an opportunity to work with the USDA Agricultural Research Service lab located somewhere within the country, or to be partnered with the Soil Science Lab as part of the Natural Resource and Conservation Service located in Lincoln, Nebraska. The High School Fellowship. It targets Hispanic serving school districts, is a term that we borrow from the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, or HACU, as a result of a USDA Memorandum of Understanding with HACU. This term refers to any school district in the country with 25% or more Hispanic enrollment, similar to the same threshold for HSIs in higher education. The High School Fellowship targets principals, superintendents, agricultural teachers working at a district level. These are the three tracks that the program is broken into for the purposes of applying and then participating in the program. It is worth noting that programmatically, the Education and High School Fellowship are identical. The differences are in the terms of the audience that they are meant for. The Education Fellowship is looking at 2-year and 4-year institutions, while the High School Fellowship looks at educators at the high school level working at those school districts. The Science Fellowship is specifically targeting individuals from Hispanic serving institutions. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about what participation will look like. All three tracks of this program get the opportunity to spend a week at USDA learning and meeting with representatives from our agencies. The agency meetings are an opportunity for fellows to learn about and determine opportunities that are available to your institutions and community. Additionally, it's an opportunity for you to share what your institutions are doing, what you're doing with your students, and what your students can bring to USDA. It is really an exciting opportunity for us here at USDA because it literally is you as a stakeholder coming to the table, allowing us to determine what we can do to better partner with you, how we can make the programs that are designed to serve you work better. All three program tracks participate in the first 1-week program in Washington, D.C., and have the opportunity to meet with our agency representatives. Where the programs diverge is that the Science Fellowship adds on an additional week to the program. At the time, after the time in Washington, D.C., Science Fellows then travel to either an ARS lab or Agricultural Research Service or the NRCS lab or Natural Resource and Conservation Service in Lincoln, Nebraska to work directly with USDA scientists on programming that is similar or at least in line with the work that you are doing at your respective institution. The application requirements. First of all, there is an application form. The application itself is reasonably straightforward. It consists of a fillable PDF application form, which is general for classification purposes and identifying you, your institution, and what type of fellowship you're applying to. Next is the essay. The essay is a statement of interest that is really the heart of your application. It is the opportunity for you to really differentiate yourself in your application. There is a difference in word limits and requirements depending on which type of fellowship you're applying to. The Education and High School essay requires 500 to 800 words. The Science Fellowship essay requires 800 to 1,000 words. For the Education Fellowship essay, this is your opportunity to explain what it is that you do on campus, and then talk about how you think this fellowship would help the work that you're doing at your institution. What you imagine you'll be able to do with your fellowship experience after the program is over. For the Science Fellowship essay, the longer word limit is designed to allow an applicant to have an opportunity to specify what sort of scientific partnership they'd like to have with USDA, and where possible to identify those labs and scientists at USDA you might be interested in partnering with. Not because we can guarantee an absolute certainty that you'll be able to be placed with that specific scientist, but to ensure that we are working with ARS and NRCS to place fellows somewhere in line with the work that is either directly correlated with the work you are doing or maybe with the scientists you want to work with. Next is your resume or CV, 3 to 4 pages depending on what you have. Certainly, if you have publications and would like to have that included as part of your CV, you can. However, we do ask you to follow the page limit because we are trying to maintain a level playing field in terms of the information being shared. You can also imagine that with our independent selection committee, when they're reviewing the resumes, trying to get through 20 to 30 page CV, they may not have an opportunity to review your resume in full. We want to make sure that the information you're submitting is the information you want the selection panel to review and that it's part of their scoring. Lastly, as part of the application form is a signed certification form. The certification is a signed application form which you can fill out electronically. You can print it off and sign it and scan it as well. The signed form is to certify that the information you're submitting is valid and that you stand by it. Then there are 2 additional items that need to be included as part of your application package. It's first one is the letter of reference. The letter of reference is simply a reference letter from someone at your institution who can speak to your work. We encourage you to think less about the title of the individual who's submitting the letter and more about their connection to you and their ability to speak about the work that you do and how they imagine you would use your fellowship experience. You really want somebody to write a letter of reference for you that augments your own statement and helps make a strong case for why you would be an outstanding candidate for the program. Lastly is the final item is the statement of institutional support. This document probably generates the most number of questions in terms of what is required and needs to be stated in the document. The document is really intended to be very simple. It needs to only say the following. It must specify that the institution supports your application for the fellowship and will support you if you are selected to represent your school. Additionally, it needs to indicate that the institution will continue all normal salary and benefits during the fellowship period. This does not mean that the institution needs to do something that they wouldn't normally do if you're in a 9-month contract or your salary is broken up in a way that doesn't necessarily apply during the fellowship period. We're not asking the school to restructure how your salary is paid. We are simply asking them to commit not to change anything about what they are doing. In essence, we want them to treat you during the fellowship exactly the way they would treat you normally if you weren't participating in the fellowship. And this is to ensure that you are supported by the institution and not being penalized with salary and benefits for participating in the program as a representative of your institution. There isn't a stipend with this program, and so we would like to ensure that participants continue to receive any salary and benefits they would normally receive to make sure that they are adequately supported. It doesn't need to say anything more than those 3 things, that they support you applying, they support your participating, and they'll continue to normal salary and benefits. Applicants often ask where this statement must come from. A statement should come from the institution's president. Should the president be unavailable to provide the statement, then it can come from anybody at your institution who is eligible and authorized to make the statement on behalf of the institution, such as a vice president or dean. And in this slide, I want to provide an overview of travel that is associated with the program. As previously mentioned, this is a 2-week maximum program. The 2 weeks for the Science Fellowship and 1 week for the Education and High School Fellowship. All fellows will spend 1 week in Washington, D.C. After the first week, Science Fellows will have a week located out in the field at their respective laboratory assignments. The program will start in D.C. the week of July 10th, so travel to D.C. would occur beginning on Sunday, July 9th. Your travel arrangements, USDA will establish invitational travel profiles for you, reserve and pay for your flights directly. You do not need to worry about air transportation or any of the costs associated with your flights. We will take care of that entirely and provide you with the information for you to fly to DC. The rest of the program is typically handled through reimbursement. What that means is at the conclusion of the program, fellows will submit appropriate receipts as necessary for reimbursement. We will reimburse for lodging at the government rate and associated lodging taxes, ground transportation, baggage, and other incidental travel expenses. Recognizing that not everything is covered, and since we do not reimburse you for individual meals, there is a standard government per diem. The link seen on the slide takes you to a page where you can look a little bit more information on government per diem. But in essence, it's a standard rate that is applied daily. It requires no receipts to be submitted. You will receive the per diem amount throughout the course of the trip, which is also provided as part of your reimbursement. As mentioned, there is no stipend with this program, but we do make the concerted effort to limit the financial expense to the participant as much as possible. Finally, I want to leave you with an overview of the program timeframe. The application cycle is open with the deadline coming up on March 1st of this year. To take any consideration of applicants across the country, on the West Coast, such as yourselves, we will accept documents through 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. After March 2nd, we will begin our application and review process with the goal of awarding fellowships in May of 2023. All fellows will travel to Washington, D.C. on July 9th, with the first day of the program on July 10th. The full program for the education and high school fellowships will conclude on July 14th, after which education and high school fellows will travel back home on Saturday, the 15th. Science fellows will participate in an additional week, concluding on July 21st. The link on this slide takes you to our Hispanic Serving Institutions National Program page, where you can find and download the application materials. Follow-up questions or requests for additional information can be sent at the email shown in the slide. And with that, I hope that this overview of the Kika Garza Fellowship Program was helpful in encouraging you to apply to the program. And I look forward to receiving your applications and hopefully meeting many of you as fellows in DC in this summer. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to be in here. And now I'd like to turn it back to our moderator.
Thank you so much for that, Julio. We really appreciate it. I think we will probably move right into a Q&A session. If you could all use the Q&A rather than the chat function below to post your questions, so we can sort of try and move through them. But before we get to answering the questions live, I wanted to introduce our panelist, former fellow Brianna Watkins, who is an academic advisor in the Department of Agricultural Education, Technology, and Innovation here at the University of Arizona. And Brianna is here to share a little bit about her own experience in the program, and then help answer any questions that you all may have from a fellow's perspective. Brianna, are you here to join us?
Yep. Hi, everyone. If my camera goes out, I'm currently at the World Ag Expo in Tulare, California, so that might be a little different. But yeah, I did the fellowship this past summer in 2022, and it was truly a great experience. I got to hang out with Julio for an entire week and everything. And it was really good because previously I had like some expertise and everything and familiarity with mostly NRCS as one of the agencies within USDA. But what was really great about the fellowship program is we were able to meet with various representatives from all of the agencies throughout the entire week, and really just gain a better understanding of what opportunities are available for us as professionals, but also, since I work in a student-facing role, opportunities that I can promote to my students, but also become more aware of different like grant opportunities and make connections with other HSI representatives from different institutions. We actually created a WhatsApp like group me chat and everything, and it's still active throughout and stuff. And I know that people have definitely started to identify ways to collaborate on multi-institutional grants through various USDA agencies and everything. And it was a really great, worthwhile experience.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Brianna. We appreciate your joining us, even on travel and on the fly. It's nice to have you here. Does anyone have any specific questions while we have Brianna here with us? I see there's maybe 3 in the Q&A right now, but do any of our participants have questions for Brianna while we have her with us right now? And is there a way, Carla, I assume if people want to ask questions live, they can do that, or should we just do it through the Q&A only?
Are you asking about like if folks can unmute themselves?
Right.
Not in the webinar format.
Okay, so we'll post them in the Q&As then. Why don't we go ahead? I'll pull them up. And if there's anything particular for Brianna, please go ahead and post those in the Q&A while she's here with us. The first question is, are these USDA opportunities available to / appropriate for non-tenure track research faculty without a teaching load? Julio, I think, can you answer that one for us?
Yes, I think the fellowship definitely is appropriate for faculty who are non tenure track research faculty. The program is open to all staff and faculty. So we do have former fellows who are more just staff working, such as advisors or also grants officials and so forth. But we also have just faculty that are teaching faculty. So it doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's on a tenure track. Particularly, especially the education fellow track of it. I think that, as mentioned before, that's the catch-all for anyone that's employed at a Hispanic serving institution. Where it gets a little bit more specific is the science fellowship track, where that one is geared more towards faculty that are a little bit more research focused and would like an opportunity to work hands-on with a USDA research scientist on agricultural research that's related to their own research.
Great. And then the second one is, will this be available again next year?
Depending on the funding, but I would say yes. Everything kind of on the government side is also contingent on funding. But I'm glad to say that this program has been around for quite a long time, since 1998, offering the fellowship at least on a yearly basis.
Great. How do you obtain the statement of institutional support? I can probably jump in just if you want me to, Julio,
Sure.
in terms of how we do it here at the university, or
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll ask a follow-on question for you. It says it has to be the president or chancellor, and at a university like ours, that's a little bit challenging. So
Right.
I've sort of advised that the dean of the college, who is the one aware of, say, teaching load and what might in terms of the funding and releases, is that sufficient for the dean, or does it need to be at the presidential or chancellor level only?
No, so it's certainly suggested that we get that the letter come from the chancellor or president, but it's not a requirement, because if the statement comes from the chancellor or president, then there's no room for interpretation at this point. But as mentioned, it should come from someone who is authorized to speak on behalf of the institution, who can make the statement that they'll support the application and be able to commit to continue paying salary and benefits as they normally would be paid during that time.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. So Samuel, for this one, I think if you can get to your dean through perhaps your department head or chair, then that is probably the best way, since they have the most, they actually know in terms of whether this is an appropriate opportunity to agree to that time release for.
Hey, Riley, also maybe Brianna can share her experience. How did she went through the application process? How was it for her? Maybe she wants to talk about in particular the letter of support and the letter of institution, or the statement of institutional support. Wow.
Yeah, so for me, my department head had actually gone through this program, I think 2 or 3 years prior, actually. So they wrote the institutional letter of support in support with the college dean as well. And then for my letter of reference, I used my advising director for it. So that was able to finish all the paperwork. I'd say the most challenging thing is for the letters of support. It's sent directly. It's not included with your application, like they have to directly email it to it. So just make sure to remind them of the stated deadlines.
Great.
And in the application, we ask you to state who that both letters who they're coming from, so we know to be on the lookout for it.
Great. Next question is, how many fellows are usually selected each year? And I would add a follow-up. I'm interested in how many applications about approximately are received each year.
The honest answer and for both is it just varies from year to year. The number of applications definitely it varies just depending the level of outreach, the word of mouth that comes from other fellows to be able to help promote our program. But we've anywhere averaging from 40 to 60 applications we will get. I think 60 to 80 is probably on the high end for a number of applications. The number of fellows, as I mentioned before, it definitely depends on funding availability and how many fellows we can support. So it varies from year to year and the number of applications that we get. We do want to make a concerted effort to ensure that the program remains competitive. And the number of applications is that it varies. We at one point the highest number of fellows that we had was 27, and almost a little bit over 10 years ago. And the lowest number was around 10. But the average usually looks around 15 to 25 fellows that we're able to sponsor. Last year, we were able to sponsor 20 fellows.
Great. Next question. What do you look for in an education fellowship application?
I think the committee really wants to look at in terms of what you plan to. What is your motivation for applying for the program, and how will you use this fellowship not only to benefit you, but most importantly, how it's going to benefit your institution and students. And so, an education fellowship applicant really can come from anywhere in the university or the institution. It doesn't matter if it's a faculty or a college advisor. And the most important thing is that you have a concrete idea of how you want to use this fellowship to benefit your institution, but most importantly your students. How are you going to be able to take the information learned and disseminate that to your students and teach them more about what you learn, about the careers that are available at USDA, kind of expanding their mind of what a career in agriculture can look like, and really, show them a different. There are opportunities, federal opportunities within USDA or the government agencies. That's most importantly the USDA, what the fellowship is the committee is going to look at.
Again, also we're taking advantage that Brianna's here. Maybe she can share her thoughts and the before and after of her, essay, and then after going over there, her takeaways as well.
Yeah, so for my application, I definitely framed it similar to what Julio identified as how can I take the information that I would gain and utilize it to better like U of A as a whole, but also specifically impacting my students. So that was kind of what I framed my essay around and everything. And then post fellowship, so I have a few different grant ideas that I'm in the process of gathering, just doing more research to articulate all the grants, but definitely in the future hoping to apply for a NIFA grant to provide some opportunities to U of A students as a whole. For it also, that's definitely good. And then also I think a good benefit is Julio is constantly sending emails about opportunities available for us as professionals, but also for students. And so being able to send out those opportunities and just letting students be aware of them and all that's available within USDA as a whole.
That's great, Brianna. If you're ever ready to go after a NEFA grant, especially in the HSI programs, please let me know. I'd love to support you. Okay, so this is an internal U of A. Does the U of A have an internal selection process? How many applicants does the university allow? So there is not a limit on institutional applicants. Is that correct, Julio?
Correct. So,
Okay.
you know, for us, for our purposes, I mean, multiple people can apply from the same institution. Some institutions, depending, may want to kind of do an internal screening or in terms of how many applications they'll support, but it's not something we encourage. We definitely want to have as many applicants as possible and encourage them to apply. And when it comes in terms of selection, again, depending on the year and the number of applications and the participants that the committee is going to identify, they do try to limit it to at least one participant per institution. Where that deviates slightly is if we have, let's say, a participant from the education track and then one from the science track. Since the tracks vary a little bit, we have seen multiple folks get selected, but usually one and one from each track. A reason for that is that we do want to try to give as an equitable representation from HSIs participating, not only from from institutions but regionally as well. So we do try to not to limit, but just try to give a equal distribution among opportunities from all over the country from the HSIs.
That's great. And I guess I'll add, at the University of Arizona, feel free to reach out either to myself or to Brianna if you have, questions at this point about your application. All right, I think we've got a couple more questions here in the Q&A. Can you please briefly describe what are the learning outcomes of this program? I have several student entrepreneurs who are interested to open their organic businesses. Will I be able to gain knowledge to support them with resources and more?
Okay. So the learning outcomes of the program, I would say they're very high level and broad. The participants are going to get to meet with a lot of the agency leaders. So these are, administrators of entire agencies and undersecretaries leading mission areas. And USDA has 8 mission areas that oversee 17 different agencies. So to try to get 17 different agencies to meet with our fellows within a week would be a pretty daunting task. So you'll get to meet more directly with the mission area leaders who oversee a portfolio of programs that just vary in terms of what the missions that they're each tasked with leading. So, you'll get to hear from folks representing the Food and Nutrition Service, or folks leading the Agricultural Marketing Service, or the Forest Service, and so forth. So you'll get a pretty high level, and in the learning, the objectives is for you to come away with like a better understanding of how USDA is structured, our mission areas, and a lot of the work that our agencies are doing out in the field and locally, and how you are able to connect with them locally, so you can be able to your communities and institutions can connect with them. In terms of like specifically to organic businesses, I mean, there are within programs within USDA, such as grant opportunities that your institution can apply to, that you can tailor to focus on business development or market development, right, related to marketing and so forth, or organic businesses. A lot of them come from the Agricultural Marketing Service, but rightly mentioned NIFA, right? NIFA has a lot of the National Institute for Food and Agriculture, which houses our portfolio of grant programs. They all focus on different areas that could be available to that. So you'll hear from the administrator that manages that agency, that NIFA, where you can have, and then it's that one-on-one conversation, right? The one-on-one conversation that you can then ask to our administrators, but the things are tailored specifically to your interests and to your institution. And then, and Brianna, do you want to maybe add on to that, kind of what you learned?
Right.
Yeah, definitely being able to just sit in a room and meet with different leaders of the agencies was really good and ask questions. We got all their contact info and everything. So if we had any follow-up, we could easily get in contact with them. And definitely in regards to like for future student opportunities and stuff, already we have like at U of A, specifically in the College of Ag and Life Sciences, we have a few different grants through NRCS for students to get internships that are solely reserved for our U of A students and everything to get them those opportunities. I think part of it is just letting students be aware of the opportunities, but also ourselves be aware of those and everything. And so definitely being able just to gain the knowledge to help refer students out, or just being aware of how they can get assistance through it all, and just what are other potential career paths and opportunities for them too.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to add, and then Brianna touched upon that in her experience, is the outcomes that we expect is that relationship and fraternity that's created amongst your cohort, right? And what your post fellowship experience, or what that can create. She mentioned they have a group going. They continue to keep in contact with each other, and they might be collaborating on other programs. And they're definitely within, not only within USDA but other federal agencies. There are a lot of programs out there that encourage partnerships or national partnerships, or working more than one HSI or institution. So now that you have a network of folks that you're meeting from across the country, you may be able to come up with different programming or programs that you want to develop that maybe your fellow colleague from University of Illinois, Chicago may have expertise in, and you can somehow create a partnership there on a USDA grant.
I also liked how there were other agencies talked about grants and opportunities they have, where if you partner with community groups and local groups in a high school and everything. So not even just institution to institution, but looking at building up our own communities.
Yeah, and in the grants development world, especially HSI grants development, we always say, relationships are the special sauce. So that this piece of the opportunity can't be overstated, I don't think. If you're interested in learning how to write grants, interested in someday going after grants, it's so critical to have these organic relationships, and getting the chance to jumpstart it like this through an agency is really unique. So definitely this is a really important aspect of this program. I think we have one final question, and can the letter of reference and the letter of support come from the same person, or would they need to be different?
Again, they can be the same person. But going back to what was stated earlier, as long as that person is able to make the statement, is authorized to make the statement on behalf of the institution, and then that person knows your work and can provide a good reference in terms of how this fellowship will enhance your own development and the opportunities for your institution. We do ask, though, that the letter, the two statements be separate documents, as we do need to have them to include them as part of the application as two separate documents, so they are distinctive.
Looks like we have one more question. In the past, what has been the rate of acceptance? I think we sort of got to that when he gave us the numbers in terms of, I'm not sure what those percentages are, but 40 to 60 applicants, 15 to 25 acceptances per year. So if someone can do quick math, then you'd have the rate there, but I think that's pretty good. Are there any more questions? Any final questions?
I can mention two things that usually comes up, but doesn't really maybe apply for University of Arizona, but institutions. But some people have asked that, well, one, do you have to come from an HSI yes, it's only open to folks from HSIs. If you're an emerging HSI, you're not eligible for the program. Does it matter if your institution is receiving HSI program funding? No, we don't look at institutions receiving any type of HSI funding.
Great. Any concluding remarks? If there, oh, maybe there's one more Q&A. Let me make sure I got them all. Looks like just a thank you. Any concluding remarks, Roberto?
No, I would just like to again thank you and thank your team and thank you, everybody from Arizona, for joining us today, and thank you for their interest in the fellowship program. And I just want to tell them that they don't please do not hesitate to follow up regarding their interest if you have any further questions. I see also that Brianna shared her contact information. I don't know if that could be shared also with all the participants, so they can have it if they want to follow up with her for any specific questions they might have. And in regards to her experience from last year, which is kind of pretty recent as well. So I'm assuming that Brianna, the one that shared the letter of recommendation, was Dr. Torres, probably, and it was here. Yeah, he was our first.
Yep.
Yeah, it was our first fellow from the HSI. As soon as the University of Arizona became an HSI, he was the first one to apply, and he's been very, very supportive of this program and a great asset. So, thank you to him as well. But yeah, so thank you. Just kind of just on behalf of USDA, OPP, and the HSI National Program, we would like to thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Julio and Roberto, for your continued partnership. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to collaborate on these sorts of things, and look forward to future collaborations as well. Thanks everyone for joining.